So Isaiah Thomas is coming back for the Denver Nuggets tonight. First off, that's cool, because it's good to get Isaiah Thomas back playing basketball, because he's one of the most entertaining players in the league, and of course we know all the stuff he's dealt with over the past X amount of months, because I don't know it off the top of my head. So all that is awesome. But if we're going to talk about the basketball side of this, how can Isaiah Thomas help the Nuggets? And I'm going to say now, I'll spend a lot of time on this video talking about offense, but because I saved the defense for the last 2 minutes, I'll just say it now to get it out of the way a little bit. This is going to be a challenge for Mike Malone, because Isaiah, he is who he is in terms of height, and Malone's just going to have to get really good at game planning ways to hide Isaiah on defense, and a lot of it is also going to depend on the team they're facing. Some teams have guys you could put him on, and it's not as bad. Other guys or other teams may not have that. That's going to be tough to deal with for this team. But anyway, to the fun stuff. And the first thing we have to see is if he can really move and if he has that burst off the dribble, because even if he's playing, we don't know how good he's really going to be, and of course, there's not too much time left until the playoffs. Granted, there is a week and then 20-something games, so he's got time to bounce back. And Isaiah certainly had some moments for the Lakers where he looked alright. Overall wasn't the best, but there was some reason to still be excited, so that's step one. And you hope that he is ready for the postseason, because I think that's where his value could really come out for this Nuggets team, because there's not many guys on this team who have playoff experience. And we saw Isaiah in the playoffs for the Celtics just go crazy. I mean, his round 2 series against the Wizards was pretty wild stuff. So the Nuggets could certainly use Isaiah's shot making if he is ready to do that in the playoffs. Now, in terms of the fit, I do think there are some questions that are going to have to be answered, because a lot of the Nuggets' best players are guards. I mean, sure, Jokic is number 1, but after that, you're looking at Murray and Harris, Monte Morris, Malik Beasley. All 4 of those guys have been valuable, and I don't really know how you get Isaiah Thomas into that, because all of those guys are deserving of minutes. I guess what you could do is maybe Torrey Craig is no longer in the lineup, and you can move Malik Beasley to the 3 spot. Maybe he can do it. He's 6'5", and he's pretty strong. But then there's also Will Barton, and he just came back for them as well, so he's going to have the expectation of minutes. And so there's definitely going to be some juggling around for Mike Malone. But the one thing that's interesting to me is I do think there's a fear with these Nuggets guards that they just may not be able to make shots consistently in the playoffs against a team that is game planning against them. I mean, right now they would have the Spurs in the first round. And of course, we're going to have to see how this all ends up. But San Antonio's defense has not been very good this season, as they're 23rd in defensive rating on Basketball Reference. But it is still Greg Popovich, and this team does still have a good amount of size. And I would think that if you allowed Pop the time to game plan specifically against Jamal Murray and Gary Harris, I think he could find ways to where those guys just have to be razor sharp on everything. Their decision making, their shot making, and not dribbling into traffic and not taking a bad shot, and they're just going to have to prove that they've got that. I mean, let's say it's a 1-1 series and Game 3's in San Antonio, and it's like the 4th quarter, the 3rd quarter or something, and the Spurs are up 5 points. Crowd's going crazy. What are we going to get out of Jamal Murray and Gary Harris in that moment? I don't know. But if Isaiah Thomas is healthy, then I have a pretty good idea of what we're going to get out of him, where even if he's not able to rain shots all day, he's still going to be relentless attacking the basket. He's going to draw fouls. He's going to force the defense to care about him, and then he can create offense for other guys. Now that's, of course, again, if he's even somewhat close to what he was a couple years back with the Celtics, and I think it's fair to think he's not going to be that anymore, but if he can still be a real offensive presence, then that would be big for these guys. As far as how he fits in with Jokic, I think that could make a lot of sense. I think Isaiah has proven to be a better pick-and-roll player at his best than Murray or Harris, to where he's just more crafty. You know, he's a little better at getting the defender to go to one side and then he goes to the other side, or the way he just kind of slithers in between defenses and all that. It's a level that Gary Harris and Jamal Murray, up to this point in their careers, have not been able to get to. And I can say a similar thing for Monte Morris and Malik Beasley, but it all comes back to, we don't know what Isaiah Thomas they're going to get. And I do want to talk about Monte Morris a bit more, because from a fundamental standpoint, Monte is great. He rarely makes the wrong decision. He's been getting a little bit more aggressive lately, and even so, his efficiency has still held up. In his last 10 games, Morris is up to 15 points a game, and his true shooting is amazing. He's giving the ball up less than one time a game. It's really just wild stuff with him. There's a chance that Monte Morris could be the best guard they have for the playoffs, because I'm confident that he's just going to keep on doing the right thing all the time. Now, that doesn't mean he won't be as good. I mean, defenses are going to game plan against him as well, but I think he's just so smart that he's never going to be overwhelmed by the moment, whereas I could picture Jamal Murray and Gary Harris getting to that point. Now, for all I know, Jamal Murray and Gary Harris could ball out and then some in the postseason, but I don't know. There's just something about their games where they're a little erratic that I just have that fear. So what could end up happening is, you remember last postseason where TJ McConnell was better for the Sixers against the Celtics than Ben Simmons was? I could picture that happening with Monte Morris and these other guards on this team. But again, if Isaiah is really good to go, then I think he could be put into that same mold with Monte, where he's going to know what to do when it gets really difficult in the playoffs. I picture Isaiah fitting in really well with the give the ball to Jokic and then everybody just start cutting and running around like Mad Men game plan. I would think that Isaiah and Millsap could also go pretty well as well, just because they're both crafty veterans who can just kind of read the situation really well. I can picture Isaiah being effective in transition, where Jokic gets a board and then he's just another one of these guys who can shoot threes and all that. So yeah, I mean, where I come back to, at least offensively, we're going to talk about the defense in a second here. At least on offense, is if Isaiah's healthy, then it can be really good. As for defense, I don't know what the hell you do, because Isaiah is what he is, and you've got to be really good if you're Mike Malone at hiding him and having him switch sometimes and then re-switching. You're going to have to study the Brad Stevens tapes on how he managed to hide Isaiah Thomas, because it was really wild stuff. Now, there are some good defenders here. Jokic has been a little better. Malik Beasley's a good defender. Millsap, still pretty solid. Torrey Craig is good, but if I had to pick one guy to fall out of the rotation, because I think there's going to be expectations for Isaiah to play because he is Isaiah, and a similar thing with Will Barton, then I think Craig could fall out. But it's still a fear. I mean, if you're facing a good offensive team like San Antonio again, and you got to deal with the fact that Isaiah Thomas is out there playing defense, it could get ugly. And the thing with Isaiah is, it's not like he doesn't care about defense. He does try hard, but he can do everything right, and it just won't matter. So, I don't know. That will be a hurdle that the Nuggets, they're not going to be able to get over it, because you can't just have him magically grow like 7 inches. So that's just going to be a case-by-case basis where, depending on the matchup, he could defend somebody. I mean, I guess I keep going back to the Spurs. Like, maybe he could defend Bellinelli and just say, all right, Isaiah, you got to chase him around to get through a few screens. You hope he can do that. Maybe he can defend like Bryn Forbes or something like that. If the Kings end up getting the 7th seed, then I guess you would slot him on. The only one I can think of is Yogi Ferrell. He has been getting minutes for them lately. The Lakers could be a little more possible if they get to that high, because you could put him on like Josh Hart or somebody like that, but I don't know. It's going to depend on the team, going to depend on the matchup, going to depend on the rotations as well. So, yeah, Mike Malone's going to be tested on that stuff. But Again, if Isaiah is good to go, if he's that same guy who can beat defenders and just attack the rim like a crazy person and hit some wild three-pointers and be really savvy in the pick and roll, then he could help these guys out.